question to you, speaking of resources, is since most of the current resources in the United States Air Force and in the military in general are going towards SOUTHCOM and the fights that we have there, how do you find and how do you meet your missions in the SOUTHCOM area of operations?
We do what we can, is the short answer to that. Just so everybody kind of has an understanding, I went from being the Deputy Commander of Pacific Command, which is probably one of the most resource-rich combat commanders, to the Commander of U.S. Southern Command, which is probably one of the least resource-rich. So I have resource envy of PACOM and UCOM. That said, and on a day-to-day basis, we have about 5,000 people assigned to us, really doing three key things, just to give you an understanding of what we deal with. One is we maintain the detention facilities and operate the detention facilities at Guantanamo. That runs about 2,000 people to operate that system. The other thing, primary mission we have is conducting detection and monitoring of illicit trafficking, primarily drugs, but it can be other things, weapons, bulk cash, those things, coming through the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific, along Central America, the northern part of South America. Depending on the number of ships, the number of aircraft associated with that, that takes up about another 2,000 people. And that varies from 1,500 up to 3,000, maybe even up to more than that. And then the other people we have are doing just routine security cooperation engagement with our partners throughout the region. That means subject matter expert exchanges, going down and talking with people, sharing knowledge with our partners. It means conducting exercises, conducting training, having some of them come up and work with us. So in the 5,000 range, there are what, 300 plus thousand assigned to U.S. Pacific Command. So that just gives you a little bit of the comparison of resources. So what do we do on a day in, day out basis? We prioritize. We look to see where and how we can meet the needs we do. Some of the countries that we deal with don't get as much interaction as we do with others. Colombia remains a pretty big focus. We're focusing more in Central America because it's having a big problem with illicit trafficking and causing a lot of violence and instability there. Just to give you an example of that, if you look at the murder rate in Iraq, the murder rate in Iraq on an annual basis is about 45 per 100,000. The murder rate in Guatemala is 55 per 100,000. The murder rate in Honduras is 62 per 100,000. If you go down to Venezuela, to Caracas, the murder rate is 140 per 100,000. So my frustration is, we got big problems close to our borders, but it never gets any notoriety because it's quote unquote drug gang against drug gang. Well, there are a lot of innocent people who are getting hurt by that. We're continuing to work that. But I'm also doing one other thing, and that is we have tended as a command to only ask for what we thought we would get. Well, that doesn't give my boss a true understanding of what our requirements are to operate. So I'm never going to get any more than that. So I'm putting a demand signal, we are putting a demand signal on the Pentagon, on the Secretary of Defense, and on the Chairman, saying, here's what we need to do the mission you've given us to do. Here's my recommendation, just the same thing I was telling you that I'd ask you guys to do. Now, let you guys decide how much resources you're going to give me, and I'll tell you what we can accomplish as a result.